whilst males and females both suffer from burnout, the reasons for it are very different. Women are suffering from burnout at higher rates than men. And one of the things we really look at is societal expectation, cultural norms. What does it look like to be a female in this day and age?
As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. I want to thank my sponsors, both the Doc Sites and Dental Intelligence, for their support. I really appreciate allowing me to come to your inbox every single Fridays at 5 a.m. Eastern Time. My guest is Andrea Smith. Andrea, welcome to the Raving Patients podcast.
Thank you, Len. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate you joining me. Andrea Smith is the founder of the Thrive by Design group. She began her career in sales and sales leadership with a global medical device company after finishing her education. After a decade in the corporate world, Andrea decided to leave her successful career for a better work-life balance. She started her business offering sales training to the med tech industry. Balancing her expanding business with caring for her 4 young children was overwhelming. Andrea came to a realization. Things had to change. She noticed that numerous women faced similar struggles, trying to be superheroes, and it was taking a toll on their lives. So she decided to go on a journey of self-discovery. During this journey, she redefined what being a superhero really meant. She firmly believes that within every woman, there's a superhero waiting to be unleashed. The superhero represents a woman's true power, potential, and purpose. Andrea established the Thrive by Design group to empower women to embrace their true selves and unlock their superhero. Now she collaborates with female dentists, empowering them to thrive. Dentists in general, let alone female dentists, sometimes struggle with work-life balance. It's a really big deal, really big problem for people. So why don't you just start at the beginning, kind of tell people how you got into dentistry, and then how about we start with a little bit about burnout in dentistry, especially female burnout?
Yeah, my background is that I was in corporate. I was in sales and sales leadership for a med tech company, and trying to manage a corporate career, a leadership position with children, young children. I was constantly on this edge of burnout and survival mode. So I thought the way to solve for this was actually to leave this career that I'd spent so long working on and building, and so set up my own company thinking this was going to be easier. And interestingly, it wasn't. It was, in fact, in some ways it kind of got worse, the feeling of surviving rather than thriving. And so interestingly, my husband had the opportunity to move from the UK, where we are, and you can probably tell by the accent, and we moved to the US. And I had this period where I spent so many years, particularly with children, being in this state of complete overwhelm, trying to do everything for everybody all of the time, where I hopped on the plane and I wasn't going to be working outside the home. I was going to be raising our children for a period of time. And I stepped into this place of underwhelm, feeling that I should be doing more. And interestingly, it meant that I tried to do more. I tried to prove my worth, and ended up in this real burnout state. And the more I talked to other females, the more I realised that most females I spoke to seem to sit in this same space. And I didn't really, interestingly, mean to come into dentistry. I set up the Thrive by Design group. I started to write a book. The book will be out this year with regards to this. I created a course where what I wanted to do is bring a very small cohort of females together, no more than 4 to 6, so they could share their insights and work together, to be able to go from this surviving state to thriving. And I created the Awaken Your Superhero course. And I did this, and speaking to different females, I realized that actually, not only is burnout really prevalent in dentistry, but, for females as well, you've got that combination of dentistry burnout and also female burnout. Bring those two together, and, the dentists that I did speak to, dental specialists that I spoke to, they were in a tough place. They were, many that I speak to are either feeling that they're disengaged from a career that they've spent so long trying to get into and worked so hard to be in. Some of them feel that they want to leave the industry. I know there's a big sort of side gig movement at the moment within dentistry because of these rates of burnout, for both males and females. But then I think the big impact that it's having on female dentists and dental specialists is this idea of sort of how do you grow your practice, career development. And I know this is really a key part of what you do here, Len. How do you grow your practice? How do you do that if the foundational thing, as in yourself, is suffering and you're in this this debilitating state, shall we say. I found an interesting fact that I heard recently was only 2% of female entrepreneurs ever hit that $1 million mark. And with that being the case, that's kind of some of the impact that's happening, for females who are not kind of driving their practices to the extent that they could be doing to step into their power, their potential, and purpose. So that's kind of the key areas that led me into this industry.
Obviously there's all different forms of burnout someone could have. I don't want to say I ever burnt out, but I worked my butt off creating a practice. And I always say that I had the practice of my dreams, but I wasn't living the life of my dreams. And I obviously made changes to correct that. Not everybody's so fortunate though. So where do you find, yes, being a mom, and being a dentist, being a practice owner, being the CEO of a big business can obviously cause burnout, but specifically with females, what are you finding as the major reasons why they're burning out?
That double shift and the triple shift is probably the best way to describe it, which is adding and layering onto that burden.
Got it. No, that makes sense. So the burnout obviously can affect people in different ways. Okay. So there's a professional part and there's a personal part that are involved. So can you talk about the impact of burnout, both personally and professionally, with women?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think a key thing to recognise here that many of the signs and symptoms, and this is one of the first things that we do on the course, it's almost the first week of the course, is looking at those signs and symptoms mentally, emotionally, physically, and I call it spiritually, but what I mean by that is connection to yourself, connection to others, and connection to the universe at large. The signs and symptoms associated with all those areas. And the problem that we seem to find for many females is so many of these signs and symptoms have been normalized. It's really interesting actually. And although this is for females, this course that I run, the business that I run, it's really interesting when I talk to men as well, men in dentistry, they're seeing these signs and symptoms in their female colleagues, for example, the females that work for them, and they see this suffering and they want to be able to help them. They just don't know how. Interestingly, however, many females, there's almost this rite of passage. This is what we're all doing. If we're all doing it, then it's become normalized, and all these signs and symptoms are just a given. And so what I do on the first part of the course is get females to realize, that back pain that you've got, that's pain in your stomach that you have, that lack of your inability to be able to sleep or focus. These aren't signs of, potentially the signs of aging, potentially the signs of other things. But for many women, we become so normalized some of these signs and symptoms.
Got it. No, that makes a whole lot of sense here. So, I think ultimately, somebody is listening to this and they are thinking they're burning out or not sure if they're burning out. So I'm curious, what are some signs and symptoms of burnout? Why does someone burn out? And, what do they do about it? I think is really what people want to know is, someone recognizes that they are burning out. How do they go about addressing it, fixing it, helping it, improving it, improving upon it so they're not burning out? Talk about that whole thing. How do they identify it? How do they fix it, etc.?
I think one of the key things is to know what burnout is, first of all. It's that mental, emotional, physical state of chronic exhaustion. And that is caused by prolonged periods of high levels of stress. And it's really important to acknowledge that stress, we all have stress. We're all, human nature is to deal with levels of stress, but we're supposed to come in and out of them. And when you're in burnout, you're in that constant high level of stress. And it's interesting, it can take anywhere between 3 to 12 months to come out of the state of burnout. And when you're in this state, you have to be able to recognize it, and you also have to be able to move through it. And moving through it isn't things like, I know I'm going to take a spa day or I'm going to go on holiday. Those things aren't going to cut it when you are in this state of burnout. And so the journey that I would take you on is, first of all, understand all the signs and symptoms. What is the impact on you? We talked about this earlier, both personally and professionally. How is it impacting, your practice, for example? How's that impacting, your interaction with your customers? How's it impacting the people that you work with professionally? But also, how's it impacting all those people around you personally as well? And then when you know the impact, the one thing that I do to work with people is if you continue on this trajectory, what are the potential consequences? So that's kind of the first part of it. If you know where you are, then it's important to understand where are you going. So I very quickly take them from the state of where they are to actually what would it look like to thrive? If you were to thrive, how would life look? What would it look like personally? What would it look like professionally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? And know why you want it. Why do you want to change things? And then when they've got that sense, it's understanding, okay, if you know where you are, you know where you want to go, what is it that's stopping you getting there? And in most cases, for most women particularly, it's that voice in your head. I call that your supervillain, the one that potentially tells you that you're not enough. Many females I know are talking about imposter syndrome. And so we really go into what is stopping you, because it's an internal thing. You can't necessarily always control the external circumstances, but you can control sort of how you feel and how you work with those. And so the next step on the journey that I take them through is how do you come back to authenticity? How do you come back to your real authentic self? Because it's only by doing that you can start to solve for burnout. And it's only then that you can start to put more things in where you gain energy, less things in which drain energy. We talk about boundaries and we talk about delegation, and we look at that both in your personal life, but also in your professional life as well. Where can you create this ability to be able to come back to authenticity and who you are and what you want and be able to thrive?
I want people who are listening to really, really understand some of the biggest signs and symptoms, because there's a lot. Again, I think a lot of people out there suffer from burnout. So I want to replay some of this because I think it's important for them to listen. So what are some of the key signs and symptoms that someone is burnt out?
Actually, there's 40 that I've created, and they're broken down sort of 10 for each. 10 emotionally, 10, that can be bouts of anger, or it can be, an emotional roller coaster generally. From an emotional standpoint, it could be from a mental element. It could be that lack of focus, lack of sleep, lack of ability to be able to concentrate. Procrastination is a big one. And then physically, as I say, there's different signs physically. Again, that comes back to sleep, and it can also come back to poor health and constant illnesses, for example. I know the way it manifested for me is very much around my back pain. In fact, because I'm so dialed and tapped into this now, immediately when my back starts hurting, I know I've just overstretched, overdone, and I get those signs of feedback physically quicker now because I've done this work and been on this journey. So there's a great book actually about that called The Body Keeps the Score. It's a really good book which talks about that. And then, connection, I call it spiritually, but connection wise, impact on relationships, impact on your ability to be present, and going back to that disconnect with yourself as well and those around you.
So you stated there was an emotional and there's physical, and then there's on the interpersonal, I guess would be your relationships.
Yeah.
You said was there a fourth one too?
So mental, emotional, physical, and interpersonal. We'll go with interpersonal. It's a far better word for it.
Got it. Okay. And then they recognize that they have some of these symptoms. It could be one or all of them or a combination of them. What do you recommend someone does when someone says, okay, I have burnout, I can't continue down this path. What can I do about it?
Well, I know a great course that they can go on. As I say, I think it's not about solving for the symptoms. It's very much about solving for the cause and the reasons for it. And whilst males and females both suffer from burnout, and I do agree, I think the reasons for it are very different. Going back to the beginning, women are suffering from burnout at higher rates than men. The studies, Gallup have done a study around that. There's a dissonance between the rate of burnout between males and females. There's also a dissonance between the burnout rate of female leaders compared to male leaders as well. And so going back to the question about what they can do about it, it is really getting into understanding, why are you there in the first place? What has brought you to this point? And one of the things we really look at is societal expectation, cultural norms. What does it look like to be a female in this day and age? Females of our generation are asked to be everything to everybody all of the time. What is the impact of that? Why do we feel the need to do that? And to actually change some of that programming, it's going from that outside in approach to the inside out approach. And it's a slow process to be able to change what has been there for so long and, drummed into us on how we should behave and what we should do as females.
Got it. So let's talk about your program, Journey to Awaken Your Superhero. So talk about your class, talk about what it involves, talk about who's the ideal person for it. Give us that overview of everything about the workshop, the class that you have, so people who are listening or viewing may be interested to learn more about what you can do for them.
What I tend to do is I tend to take no more than 4 to 6 females together. So there would all be female dentists, and I bring them together, and over a 12-week period, we find 90 minutes each week, and we work together and we go through a lot of a lot of it isn't me talking, a lot of it, which is quite nice to be here just doing this a free reign to be able to talk. But what I do is I give them the opportunity to talk, and we delve into some deep topics on it, going into some of the things that we talked about, taking them on a journey from where are you now, where do you want to go, what's stopping you getting there, and then taking them through a methodology to come back to authenticity so that they can thrive. And I think the key thing, and the thing that most females love about the course is not, the content. I'd like to think it's amazing, but I think it's the fact that they get to share experiences, be vulnerable with females who are going through exactly what they're going through. They can share insights, they can share knowledge, they gain experience, not just from me, but also from the females who are on the course with them. So there's that element of camaraderie of feeling that they're part of something when what can be at times a very lonely existence, I think, for female dentists.
So I'm assuming it's all virtual.
It's all virtual, yeah. And I'm also creating another course, actually, which is a self-reflection course, which people can do as well.
Got it. And I'm just curious from my perspective, is the commonality dentist, is the commonality that they're a business owner? Is there something else that connects the women who suffer from burnout? Is, like I said, because you can be a dentist and a practice owner, you can be a dentist and be an associate. Have you found out in the dental space specifically if there's a commonality between a lot of the people who are suffering from burnout?
No, I think it's actually, so I'm running the course I'm thinking about at the moment. And there's women at different points in life as well. So I'm running this course for female dentists, different specialities, different stages in their career. Some practice owners, some not. I think the real commonality is the fact that they're females in this industry and they get this safe space to be able to share those insights, provide feedback, and actually just be vulnerable. It's not talking to your partner, it's not talking to a friend, it's somebody who understands the industry but is also female and gets it from a very different, unique perspective. Many people ask me, why are you not doing this for everybody? Everybody's burnt out, both males and females. And I think there is this key part of it, which is understanding why are females specifically burning out. So, and as I say, there's females at different stages of life. There's some whose children have left home, and they're going through their own period, or there's people with very young children. So there's just different perspectives from that angle. But I think the commonality is that they're female, and the reasons why they're burning out is the same.
So we're going to switch gears here, Andrea. I do a section called Pod Decks. I'm going to go ahead and read some business-related questions to you. So first question, what book have you read multiple times and you recommend everybody else read as well?
I think it would be Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It's a book that, as I'm writing my book, I read that and I had to put my writing down for a good few weeks because I was so upset that she'd written the book that I wanted to write. And it's great for females to understand, the idea of feeling worthy and enough. And I'd highly recommend that to male or females.
And it's called Untamed, you said, right?
Untamed by Glennon Doyle, yeah.
Okay. The next question, what have you learned from the most successful person you know?
Probably the abundant mindset, the ability to be abundant and, everybody can have a piece of the pie and actually we're stronger together and the more you can give, the more you get back. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I learned.
That's a good one. What is the number one tactic you use to stay organized?
I think is probably, although I don't particularly like things to do lists, I like to also balance that out with things that I've done lists as well, which is a key element of what I teach. I think having that things to do list does help me just to keep focused and keep on track. And I think, staying focused as well, not trying to do 10 things at once. I'm a big believer that multitasking isn't a thing. So.
Got it. What mindsets helped make you successful?
I think, and it's one that I'm really trying to work on, is knowing that life is, my dad used to say, my dad died when I was 27, but a big thing I remember him saying is life is a journey, not a destination. And as, you set up a business or anything I try and do, I'm always kind of rushing to the finish line. I'm always wanting, success is a short-term thing. And I don't think it is. I think along the journey, you can learn from the failures, you can learn from rejection and the judgment and, as well as all the good stuff. So I think remembering that life is a journey, setting up a business is a journey. I think it was the guy who owns a company called Spartan talked about how he was an overnight success after 15 years. And remembering that is always good for me to keep it on that journey.
Got it. Who is the one person you love to have as a mentor?
It would probably be either Martha Beck, Gabby Bernstein, Oprah Winfrey would be a good obvious one. Michelle Obama, just really, strong females who I guess are Krishna and seem to have the right mindset and know their worth and, are living it and doing it. So
that's great. That's great. What are 3 adjectives that describe your strengths?
Determination. The interesting part of that can sometimes flip into a weakness, which is one of the things, again, that we discussed on the course. But determination, if I can keep that in balance. Bravery and creativity.
Those are good ones. What has been your most satisfying moment in business?
I think having the bravery to just get going. I think, and that comes back to a key strength of mine. I think one of the things that I notice with females is losing yourself and being disconnected. And we talked about that. Coming back to that connection, stepping into bravery and doing what I really wanted to do, which is purpose-driven work. So I think that would be my greatest success, just getting on and doing it and, keep doing it every day.
What was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a Formula One racing car driver.
Wow, that's interesting.
And it probably actually tells the story of how I've ended up where I am, because I remember so many people telling me, well, you can't because females can't be Formula One racing car drivers because of the G-force. And I think that's really set me on this motion that females can do and be, whatever they set their mind to, and which is, how they step into their power, purpose, and potential.
That's great. 2 more questions. How do you define success?
Success, I define now by achieving my mission of the company, which is to help as many females as possible to be able to thrive. I think, it's as basic as that. I think that's it. How do I enable as many women as possible to thrive?
That's good. That's good. And the last question could be business or personal.
Okay.
What is one subscription you can't live without?
At the moment, it's Kajabi, because I am trying to build this online version of the course, which is a self-reflection course. So at the moment, all I'm doing is working on that every day. So at the moment, it's that one. Got it.
Perfect. Kajabi is a popular choice. So, Andrea, how can people find more about you? How can they contact you? How do they find out more about the class you're giving? And how can they reach out to you, or how do they sign up? And do you have a code you want to offer for some sort of discount? So go over all those things.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram on Awaken Your Superhero. I am on LinkedIn as Andrea Smith, the Thrive by Design group. And you can email me. Feel free to email me on info@the Thrive by Design group. And yes, if anyone wants to sign up, they can get a 10% discount with the code SUPERHERO.
Got it. Well, Andrea, this was great. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I hope that the content resonated, especially with female dentists, because that's who our target is for this specific one. If you're a female dentist and you are thinking or wondering if you have burnout, and you want to look at a way to kind of awaken your superheroes, as Andrea likes to say, please reach out to Andrea. She gave her information. Use the code, you said superhero, during, when they sign up for the class, and you get 10% off. And, guys, if you like the episode or you have someone you think would like it, please share it. Please recommend it. Please subscribe. Please review. Do everything you can to help promote the episode, because this is what I enjoy doing, coming to you every single week with more people in the industry who hopefully can help you grow your practice. As I always end all of my sessions, I want you to remember that your reputation matters. Until the next episode, Andrea, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.